Good afternoon, everyone. So my name is Jesse, and I am with Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants. For those who are joining us for the first time, we are all about bringing conservation, adventure, and science into classrooms around the world. We're really excited today because we have 7 classes joining us from across North America. I'm going to give them a chance to do a bit of a shout out before we introduce our speaker. We've got Miss Gordon's grade 3 through 6s in Tatla Lake, BC, with a gorgeous view. Hi, guys. We've got Mr. LaFoe in North Palm Beach, Florida. Hi, guys.
Say hi.
Hi.
We've got Miss Stanley's grade 3s in Douglas, Ontario. Are they coming in?
We are still
they're coming.
We'll be joining soon.
Perfect. We'll see you then. We've got Mr. Richard's grade 5/6s in Amherst View, Ontario. We got all the Ontario today. We've got Mr. Bernie's grade 5s in Orillia, Ontario. Nice. We've got Miss Lindsay's 5/6s in Barry's Bay, Ontario. Hi, guys. And last but not least, we have Mr. Blondo's 4/6s in Winnipeg, Manitoba. Hi, guys. Awesome. Of course, the reason you guys are all here today is for our speaker. We are joined live by Lindsay at the Schlitz Audubon Nature Center Raptor Program, here to show us some amazing birds. As you guys know, raptors are pretty amazing. We have really, really high demand for this because birds are just awesome. I'm really thrilled to be back hosting Lindsay again. And so without further ado, let's get to the birds. Lindsay, thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. It is my honor, and I'm also really, really excited that you guys are having me back and that all of you are really excited to meet some of the birds that live with us here. So a little bit of information about our nature center first is we're located in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. We're called the Schlitz Audubon Nature Center. We have a lot of wonderful stuff that goes on here at the Nature Center. And one of the coolest, most unique let me turn this down a little bit. One of the coolest, most unique parts of this center is that we have 17 birds of prey that live here at the Nature Center. We are their forever home. So they were injured in the wild, or they weren't out in the wild for one reason or another, and then they moved in to live with us. And now they're educators, and they go out to libraries and they go to schools, and we do stuff on site, and they're used to meeting people. And now they're used to meeting my laptop, and they're going to meet all of you guys. So we're going to do our best to get our camera here nice and close so you guys can get a good look at our beautiful birds. We have 3 of them that we have brought here to meet you guys today. So I'm going to be able to teach a little bit about each one of these birds, and then you guys can ask away with your questions. I do want to very quickly introduce my handler who's going to be helping us out today. So we're going to sneak her in here. This is Sarah. Everybody wave hi to Sarah. She's very, very excited to join us today too. And so before we bring out that first bird, I wanted to talk just a little bit about that word raptor, because we've used it a couple times already. And I bet you guys are pretty familiar with what that word means. But a raptor is a type of bird that eats other animals, and they have 3 characteristics that make them amazing hunters. 2 of them are right on their faces. So this right here is actually a replica of an eagle skull. And so it's made out of plastic. But first, you can see this hooked upper beak. Do you guys see that hooked upper beak? If you saw a bird out in the wild, it's not going to be carrying a knife and a fork with it. That would be kind of weird. So they actually need to have all of their tools right on their bodies. This hooked upper beak is like their knife and their fork. So when they have their prey, they can break into it and swallow it in bite-sized pieces. Also, do you see these big eye holes right here? Got 2 of them. They have amazing eyesight. So they have forward-facing eyes. And some birds, like when we talk about like a bald eagle we say can actually like read a newspaper from a whole football field length away. That's how amazing these eyes are. So they can see their prey really, really well. And then finally, look at this. Do you guys see this thing? This is also a replica of a bald eagle foot, But look at how big this thing is. It's huge. It's extremely strong. And it also has these curved claws on it. And these things are called talons. Now, this is a raptor's #1 tool to catch their prey. And we're going to meet a couple birds that we might be able to take a look at their feet too. And you can see this most amazing tool for our raptors. So let's say hello to our first bird. Okay, you guys ready? We're going to scooch them on in here. This is our beautiful cutright. And cutright is a peregrine falcon. Peregrine falcons are actually the fastest animal on the planet. So if you guys think about a cheetah, which goes pretty fast. A cheetah goes about like 60 to 70 miles an hour, which is pretty spiffy. This animal in a dive can reach speeds up to 240 miles an hour. It's amazingly fast. And the way that they can reach these speeds, now he's going to kind of show off some of this, but if you take a look at his body is very long and narrow. That is, I'm going to introduce you to a nice word. It's called aerodynamic. And what that means is that he can move through the air really quickly because of this long, narrow body. And he's got long, narrow wings as well. I'm going to stop moving my hand. Sorry, buddy. He's got long, narrow wings as well. So when these guys are going after their prey, they're going to fly really high in the sky, and they're going to wait for their prey to pass underneath them. And then when they see that prey, they're going to dive after it. They're going to dive head first. They're going to tuck their wings in, and they stick their neck out. And they go so fast after that prey. That's when they can reach such high speeds. And then right before they get to the prey, they can take those feet and actually punch the prey right out of the air. And that in itself will actually just take care of the prey on its own. So cutright here is actually showing you those long, narrow wings, and he's keeping his muscles really nice and warm by doing all that flapping. Now we can take a look at those feet. If you guys can see those bright yellow feet on Sarah's glove. He has these long toes and those really sharp talons, and those feet are going to give him that powerful punch when he gets to that prey. Our beautiful, he's going to make his feathers out so he can come. Regular bird is 16 years old, and he came to live with us about 3 years ago. And what happened with cutright is that he was actually hatched in captivity for falconry. So falconry is actually a sport where a human will hunt with a bird of prey. So cutright was a falconry bird for the first 13 years of his life, and then he needed to retire, so he moved in with us, and now he's meeting tens of thousands of people, and he's teaching everybody about how great peregrine falcons are out in the wild. So even though he can't hear you, if you guys want to give him a nice big wave goodbye, and we can go and put him back in his home. Hi, buddy. So the interesting thing about peregrines is that they are so special. They're very important predators. But some of you may know or may not know that peregrines out in the wild actually had a really tough time. In the United States, we were actually using this pesticide way back when, like in the 60s and the 70s, and this pesticide was so bad that it was actually affecting peregrine falcons and bald eagles. And what was going on is that it was affecting their eggs, so their eggs weren't developing, and then we were having no baby peregrines. So we found out that this was an issue, and suddenly we did not want to use that pesticide anymore, so we got rid of it, and a lot of wonderful people got together and said we want to bring peregrine falcons back, and so a lot of great organizations worked to bring them back, and now peregrine falcons are back in the skies again. And here in Wisconsin, they're doing very well, and so it's great that we're able to have them back with us. I wanted to very quickly play for you what a peregrine falcon sounds like. Sounds kind of funny, so listen very carefully. You guys hear that? Hey, a thumbs up if you, thumbs up if you can hear it. Yeah, look at that, perfect. Kind of sounds like a duck. Oh, let's see if I can push play. Kind of sounds like a duck. It's It's kind of a little weird, but if anything, it just kind of confuses the prey. So the prey actually doesn't know what's coming. So we are going to actually move from a daytime bird, which is any animal that's active during the day, we call diurnal. It's a nice one of those scientific words. Diurnal is daytime. So now we are going to move to the opposite direction and meet an animal or a bird that is active at night. And I bet you guys can guess what kind of bird that is. So we're gonna bring him on over. He's actually enjoying part of his breakfast. And this is a very, very special treat because this particular bird is 6 months old. So we're gonna move this over here. There we go. So this is, I don't think they want to see that, so I'm gonna just take. We'll give it back to them. We promise. This is a beautiful owl. His name is Perseus, just like the constellation. And he is, like I said, he's 6 months old. So he doesn't really look like a baby, does he? But birds have to grow up very, very quickly. So most birds are actually full grown and look like adults when they're about 3 months old. A couple really cool things about our barred owl friends. I think he saw himself in the computer. As we know, most owls are active at night. And so they have some special adaptations on their bodies to make them really, really good hunters. Now, what you'll notice too is that our handler right here is going to try to be giving him some treats because as he is really young, this stuff is still new to him, so he's still learning about what it's like to be a teacher. So first, you can take a look, and when he looks over in our direction, you can see those big, beautiful eyes on his face. You guys see those big, beautiful eyes? If you think about when an owl is hunting, it's very dark outside. There's not a lot of light. So owls have super big eyes so that they can collect as much light as possible so that they can see in very low light situations. In fact, I'm gonna pull the camera away just for a moment. If we had eyes, I got this special thing to show you. If we had eyes as big as an owl, so if I was an owl, this is what I would look like. Look at this, check it out! Do you think I could see really well if I had eyes this big? I think so, look at this. I would look pretty goofy, but it works really, really well for our owl friends. And so that's how big his eyes are in his head, if you can imagine that. And with big eyes like that, they can actually see by the light of one candle in an area of a football stadium. So there we go. We can take another nice look at our beautiful Perseus. So they get the name barred owl because of the pattern on his chest. If you are able to see it, it kind of looks like he has a lot of little bars on his chest. And then there's one more thing I really want to teach you about our owl friends. I'm going to reach over, get this thing. Well, there's a lot of stuff. I could talk about owls forever. So give me a hands raised, thumbs up if you guys have heard that owls can rotate their heads like almost all the way around. Look at that. Okay, I see lots of hands up in the air. Now look at it. I mean, he's almost doing it right now. They do have the ability to rotate their heads in crazy directions, but I will tell you, they cannot do it all the way around. They can do it almost all the way around. So I actually have my puppet radar here. The radar is going to show us how far an owl can rotate its head. That was Perseus, if you heard him. So radar here is looking ahead of him, and now he can look over this shoulder. He can look all the way behind him, and then he can go over that shoulder, but that's as far as he can go, and he has to look forward again. And then he can go this way. He can go all the way over that shoulder, but then that's as far as he can go. So he can go 3/4 of the way around. And if you're looking at a clock on the wall, that would be like he can go from 12 o'clock all the way to 9 o'clock, but then he's got to look forward again. So that's as far as they can rotate their heads, which is still pretty far. Because if you guys tried, how far can you go? Exactly. Yeah, you can just like over a shoulder, if that, right? Like if you stretch a lot, I can barely even do it. So That's crazy that they can get those head rotations. And then one more thing, because I could go on forever. Yeah. When these guys are hunting at night, it's very quiet, right? It's very quiet. It's very, very dark. And the stuff that they're going after, if you think of it, is like, it's like mice. Mice have huge ears to hear their prey. So an owl has to be super duper quiet while they're flying and going after their prey. They have special feathers on their wings to help them fly silently through the woods. Now this right here is actually a great horned owl wing. And if you can see, let me see if I can get this up here. On the edges, do you see these tiny fringes right here? Do you guys see that? It's like eyelashes. And they have that on the front part of these feathers so that as they're flapping through the air, they fly completely silently. And it's all because of these little tiny fringes on their wings. So we are going to do a nice wave goodbye to Perseus because he did a pretty good job meeting all of you guys all over the place. That was a really big thing. He did a really good job. I will tell you a little bit about Perseus. Yeah, see, I see you guys waving. You're so nice. Little bit about Perseus because he is so young. What happened with him is that he was about 3 weeks old. He was hatched out in the wild and he fell out of his nest. He was in a really busy park with a lot of people. And what happened is that a lot of people found him on the ground, but instead of calling somebody to help him, they were picking him up and they were petting him and they were like poking him with sticks and they weren't doing anything about it. So finally, after a couple weeks of this, a wildlife rehabilitator got contacted. Now what that is, now raise your hand if you guys have heard of like a veterinarian before. A bunch of you, fantastic. All right, I like it. A wildlife rehabilitator is a veterinarian for wildlife. So they called up this wildlife veterinarian and she came and picked him up and she found out that he was very, very hungry. He was very dehydrated. And so she took him back to her hospital. And after just a day or two, she realized that he was way too comfortable around people. And that's probably because of the couple weeks that people were picking him up and petting him. So with this is called he's way too comfortable around people. He actually associates with us. He doesn't know how to take care of himself out in the wild. And so he wouldn't survive out in the wild. So very, very quickly, almost when he was about 6 weeks old, he moved in with us. And so we have been training him and working with him to be an educator for us. And he, in captivity with us, can live to be like 25 years old. So he can be with us for quite some time. And then I do want to just play the cool hoot of a barred owl for you, because I bet you guys can actually hear this out in the wild. You guys ever heard that before? I see some. So it kind of sounds like he's saying like, who cooks for you? Maybe, right? You could try. So next time you hear that, you know that what you are hearing is a barred owl. All right, we have one more very, very special guest to meet all of you guys today. He is so super excited to meet you. And the thing about him is that he is not a raptor at all. So even though we're talking about raptors, he's a very, very special guy, and I wanted to make sure that you guys had the opportunity to meet him. And I know that all of you guys have seen one of these out in the wild before. So I just need to make some little adjustments and move some stuff around for him. But you can come over here and we can just say hi to him. This, everybody, is Loki. Do you see him? That's our buddy Loki. Raise your hand if you have seen one of these out in the wild before and you know what this is. Look at that. I see all of those hands. That's awesome. Loki is what we call an American crow. Crows are all over the place. And they are actually some of the most intelligent animals on the entire planet. They're so, so smart. They actually have a language that's all their own. They live in family groups, and each bird in their family group actually has a name. And so they talk to each other using each other's names. They remember people's faces. So if you do something good for a crow, they'll actually remember you. And then they'll remember you for years to come. So you always want to be really, really nice to a crow. And I know that there's a very famous crow out there that's named Canuck, and some of you might actually be familiar with him. But I know he has a Facebook page, and you can look that up later. But Loki is going to be just as famous as Canuck. We have something to show you guys, to show you just how smart Loki is. So we are going to just move some stuff around just a little bit. So Miss Sarah, if you want to bring him over here. Loki has learned something that can help you guys, or teach you about how to take care of his friends out in the wild. So this is Loki's little recycling box. And we drink a lot of soda here and a lot of water. And Loki is going to actually help us take care of all that stuff so it doesn't go into a landfill. And instead, it gets nice and recycled. He does it with gusto. He very much likes to recycle for everybody. So about our little friend here, he actually is, he's about 8 years old, and Loki showed up in California, actually, in Northern California. He was really, really sick, and he couldn't fly, and he couldn't perch. And so, I mean, he was out in the wild. Somebody found him that way. They brought him in, and they nursed him back to health, but then they realized that he, just like that owl, he is imprinted. So they put him with other crows and stuff, and he was so stressed out because he had never seen one before. And so these guys, as you can imagine, are very, very social because they live in those family groups. They need that family group to survive. So when they found out he was imprinted, they actually moved him into Schlitz Audubon, moved all the way to Wisconsin, and he moved into Schlitz Audubon, and now he can teach everybody about recycling and how smart our crow friends are. So I'm gonna put this right back down. And I think we're gonna try one more thing just because I'm ambitious. Just to show you just how smart our Loki friend is. Now, we have these toys that are like for dogs, right? Have you guys seen these before? So these really cool things, and they have to pull all the parts out in order to get the piece of food. And for Loki, it's gonna be a peanut. Peanuts are his favorite. So we're gonna see if he wants to come over and try to get this thing out for us. So crows are very big problem solvers. See, now he's got to figure it out. He sees that one. Oh, look at that. Oh, that like took no time at all. Oh, thank you. that took no time. Crows are big, big problem solvers. They're so, so smart. And so, yeah, that was nothing to Loki. So it's for us to take care of him. It's a really big challenge because we need to find these puzzles and these toys to keep him nice and challenged and busy. Come over to the laptop and say hi. All right, and so I think at this point, we should maybe do some questions, if you guys are ready for that.
Yes, we are, and that was spectacular, Lindsay. Thank you so much. Let's start with this Gordon's group. If you guys have a question, come on up.
Did raptors evolve from raptors like in dinosaur age?
Did raptors evolve from raptors from dinosaur age?
Yeah.
Yeah, I like your shirt too because that's very fitting for your question. In fact, there is evidence that birds did evolve from dinosaurs. And so they are, there's a bunch of fossils out there that show that some dinosaurs had feathers and they laid eggs just like modern day birds do. And they found a bunch of fossils in different species that have shown this. And they're learning more and more every single year. So it's really exciting.
Very cool. Good question too. And something that's happened fairly recently. I mean, when I was a kid, they were still ifing and amming over it. And now they're like certain, which is very neat. All right, let's go to Mr. LeVoque's class.
Back up, David.
Go ahead. What's your question, Marina?
Is there a raptor you have not worked with that you want to work with in person?
Is there a raptor that I have not worked with that I would like to work with in person? I have been lucky to be able to work with a nice variety of raptors. I will tell you, I think it would be very interesting to meet a Harpy Eagle. Harpy Eagles are some of the largest and some of the strongest eagles on the planet. And where this is a replica of a bald eagle foot, a Harpy Eagle talon is like so much bigger. It's like this big. It's huge. They're very strong birds, and they've actually been known to take down monkeys. And so it would be really, really cool to be able to work with one of those. That's a great question.
I really encourage all the classes to look up a Harpy Eagle afterwards. I had a poster of them on my wall when I was a kid, so super nerd. Let's go to Miss Stanley's group. You guys just need to demute your own microphones. A little microphone symbol on the top of your screen. A few classes are going to need to do this. But if you click that, you're good to ask a question. And I'll let you know when you're good. Wants to work. You can always come back in a minute too. Try now. You guys good? Maybe not. Okay. We'll come back to you, Miss Stanley, in just a second. Okay, so yeah, just a little microphone symbol top of your screen. We'll go to Mr. Richards' class first, and we'll come right back.
Oh, go ahead, Dave.
Besides the crow, where did you find all your other birds that you said?
So besides the crow, each one of our other birds has a different story, but the Peregrine Falcon came to us from Oklahoma. Actually, he was a falconry bird in Oklahoma. And the barred owl that you guys just met actually came from central Wisconsin. So just right here in the same state.
Cool. All right. Let's go back to Miss Stanley's class. You got it.
Hi, can you hear us?
Yep, you're good.
Perfect. We have a question.
Did you like having birds?
Do I like having birds? I love it. It is so fun. Birds are so unique, and each one of them has their own personalities. And on top of that, too, even though they've lived with us for a very long time, almost their whole lives, they're wild animals. Touch them. We don't cuddle with them like you would a dog or a cat. But it is so exciting and so wonderful to be able to work with them and come into work every day and spend a lot of wonderful time with them. So I'm very happy to be able to do it, and I think everybody should have an opportunity to at least meet a bird because they're so great.
Awesome. All right, let's go to Mr. Bernie's class. Again, you guys need to demute your mic as well, but go right ahead.
How long do raptor birds' eggs take to hatch?
That is a very good question. How long do raptor eggs take to hatch? Oh, thank you. Thank you. Sarah's passing me some stuff. Raptor eggs, on average, can take about a month to hatch. So what Sarah just passed me, actually, is it's a wooden egg, but it is about 3 inches long, and this is about the size of a bald eagle egg. So a bald eagle egg would be about 3 inches long. They take about a month to hatch, and then in 3 months, they are full grown, which is about 3 feet from the top of their head to the tip of their tail. So, or the body, yep. So that, it's really, really impressive. They grow up really fast.
Very cool. Good answer. All right, let's go to Miss Lindsay's group. If you guys have a question, just come on up and demute your mic. Yep, you're good.
Go ahead, Emma.
What color was the owl's eyes?
Oh, what color was the owl's eyes? He had very, very dark brown eyes, almost black. So you could barely see the pupil. And you guys probably know this, but owl eyes actually can be different colors. And based off of the color, it can kind of actually tell you when the owl is active. So owls like our barred owl, who has very, very dark eyes, almost black, those are truly nocturnal birds, and they hunt when there is no light outside. So they hunt like at midnight. Now, if you see an owl with like yellow eyes, those owls can be active during the day or when the sun is setting and coming up, so during dawn and dusk. So there are owls out there like great horned owls, and those actually have yellow eyes because they are more active at dawn and dusk.
Very cool. I didn't know that. I also encourage you. So, Lindsay, you mentioned when the barred owl, when Perseus flew away. If you watch the video, it's the moment it sees itself in the camera that it darts away, which is really neat.
I think it's the whole like he doesn't know he's a barred owl thing. So he's like, what is that?
Let's go to Mr. Blondo's class again. Demute your mic, guys, and you'll be good to go.
How fast can a peregrine falcon fly straight, and does the time of the day affect its travel?
So if I can get that correct, the first question was how fast does it fly just straight? Is that what you're?
Yeah, how fast and how far can it fly straight, and then does the time of day affect it?
Perfect. So straight, like flapping flight going this way, it can go pretty fast. It can still go like 40, 45 miles an hour. And then the time of day, does that affect it? Not necessarily, but what's going on during the day can affect it. So if it's really, really warm or it's windy outside, the birds can travel faster because they will use the air to help them move from one place to another.
Okay, cool. All right. Lindsay, you have time for another round of 7 questions?
Yeah, let's do it.
Great. Let's start again with Miss Gordon's class. Come on up.
How can you tell when there's a crow or a raven on top of your head?
That's a great question. So it's really hard to tell the difference between a crow and a raven sometimes. And the one thing that I always tell people is that it's the size. So crows are like this big. They're like a foot, a foot big. Ravens are so much bigger. They're humongous birds. They're like 2 to 3 times the size of a crow. That's like the main thing, but it can be tough because you have to sometimes you have to see them side by side. There's a couple other tiny little differences, like the sounds that they make are slightly different. But it really just kind of depends on where you are. Also, if you see a bunch of them together, crows hang out in their family groups. So there can be like 6 or 7 of them together. Ravens actually like to hang out in small groups, like 2 to 3 birds. But the big thing is definitely the size.
Excellent answer. All right. Let's go to Mr. Laveau's class.
Go ahead, Josh.
What's the most endangered raptor and why?
Setting up.
Yeah.
I just got stumped. The most endangered raptor and why. I am going to Google this. Most endangered raptor. I will tell you that out in the wild, raptors are kind of having some trouble. And it's all around the world. It's because they're losing habitat. People are poisoning raptors, or they're putting poisons out there to go after mice, because we don't like to have mice around, so people put poisons out. And what it does then is that it makes the mouse a really easy meal for a raptor. So the raptor will then eat the mouse, and then they'll get poisoned. So they're facing a lot of kind of bad stuff out there. The most endangered raptor, Google tells me, oh, well, California condor, the giant ibis, nightjar. So in our area, I'm going to tell you that the California condor is one of the most endangered birds in North America. I'll tell you that one.
Can you tell the classes how big a condor might be?
A California condor is an amazingly large bird, and it would probably be from the top of its head to its tail, like 3.5 feet. Its wingspan's going to be huge, like 7 feet. They're really, really, really big birds, and they hang out on the East Coast. And I would love to see one day. West Coast,
West Coast.
it's California.
One of those states.
Wherever.
Let's go to Miss Stanley's class. Just come on up and you mute your mic and you're good.
Tessa, you want to come ask a question?
What's your favorite kind of bird?
What is my favorite kind of bird was the question. And that is a great question because it's so hard because I love so many different kinds of birds. I will tell you that crows are one of my favorite birds because I think that they don't get the respect they deserve. And I think they're so smart. It's like kind of hanging out with like a 4-year-old. They're so smart and they keep you on your toes. So crows are probably one of my favorite birds to work with.
Excellent. If you get more crows, are you going to name them after the rest of the Norse pantheon? Is it going to be like Thor and Odin along with Loki? Or
yeah, I think, the next step would be a raven named Thor. And then, yeah, we got Thor and Loki, right? One day.
Awesome. But one day, the future. Next hangout. Let's go to Mr. Richard's class.
Hey, Riley.
How did you teach the crow to recycle?
How did we teach the crow to recycle? Great question. When we train the birds, we use a technique that is called positive reinforcement. And that is very much like if you guys have a dog at home and you ask your dog to sit and he sits, you give him a treat. And it's your way of telling your dog, you did a great job. So it's the same thing with the birds. So what we did is we took a natural behavior that crows do in the wild, which is taking food or objects and hiding them. It's called caching. It's like squirrels do it too, right? Squirrels will take nuts and hide them all over the place. So crows will do the same thing. So what we did is we taught him to take an object and put it in this other object. We taught him to cache it into the recycle bin, and he gets a treat for it. He's so smart. It took him like 2 weeks to figure it out. He's so smart. So it took like no time at all. And it's like one of his favorite things to do now.
Awesome. Before we go to the next question, I just want to say, I think someone in Miss Gordon's class created like this awesome Lego owl. If you want to bring that back up, that is super cool. So just, let's check that out. That is it bald eagle? Is it an owl? It's cool, whatever it is. I like it. Nicely done.
We missed it. I don't know if it came up, but I bet it looks awesome.
Perfect. There you go. Awesome. All right, let's go to Mr. Bernie's class. If you guys have a question.
Hey, quiet.
How many raptor species are there in North America?
Oh, good.
No pressure.
Yeah, right? You guys are really giving me the great questions today, and you're testing. Say there are approximately 30, but please don't quote me on that. 5, 10. Yeah, it's actually about 25. Says Google. And I will tell you that raptors come in all different shapes and sizes. So often when we're thinking of raptors, you're going to kind of think of a bigger bird, like bigger owls, or you're going to think of eagles, or bald eagles, golden eagles. But there are small raptors out there too. There are raptors called American kestrels. And these kestrels, they're like this big. Northern saw-whet owls, they're like this big. So raptors do come in all different shapes and sizes.
All right, let's go for our last 2 questions to Ms. Lindsay's class first. You guys want to come up and ask another? Go for
it. What, out of all your birds or owls, is the best at camouflaging?
Oh, which one is the best at camouflaging? That is a great question. I actually have a cool thing for you. So, a lot of the birds their colors do come into play when it comes into surviving out in the wild. Owls are wonderful camouflagers. It is a great tool that they have, a nice skill. So we have a bunch of cool, really cool owls here. I will show you this picture though. This is a picture of a wild screech owl, a wild one that lives here at Schlitz Audubon. It lives on our property, and so somebody took this picture. And even though the screen is kind of reflecting it, but can you guys see how there's this owl in this cavity, which is just a hole in the tree, and he's just filling that whole hole, and he's almost blending right in. You see that? So he has amazing camouflage, so he can blend right into that tree. So the ones that live here at Schlitz Audubon, our screech owls, have some of the best camouflage.
Excellent. All right. I was hoping that picture was going to make a comeback from the last hangout.
Yeah.
All right. We will wrap up with one last question from Mr. Blondeau's class. Again, demute your mic and take it away.
How do you feel when you help the birds? And what is your most memorable moments with the birds and why?
Oh. Was that first part of that question, how do I feel when I'm helping the birds or with the birds? So the work that we do here at Schlitz Audubon is extremely rewarding because the birds that live with us, all 17 of them, they wouldn't survive in the wild. So they do rely on us for everything. So it makes me very, very happy when I'm able to work with them, give them toys, make them very, very comfortable, and we can do exercising. And it's very, very rewarding because I know that we're taking such good care of these animals. Additionally, being able to bring them into schools and libraries, and even like right here when we're able to bring them into your classrooms, it is why we're doing what we're doing, because these birds are representing their wild cousins. And so they're able to teach you about things about their wild cousins and how we can help take care of them out in the wild, that peregrine falcons are the fastest animal on the planet. And so they have a very important job here at Schlitz Audubon. I will tell you one of my favorite things is after we do a program, and let's say we'll meet somebody like a year later, and they'll come up and they'll like remember the birds' names, and they'll even say like, because of Loki, I met Loki a year ago, and because of him, I've learned to love crows. Or we have a turkey vulture that lives here at Schlitz Audubon, and a lot of people don't like vultures, but when they meet her, they really gain an appreciation. And so that's the stuff that I love, is when people will come back and just say, they saw one out in the wild and they spent a little bit more time paying attention to it. That makes it all worth it and makes me very happy.
That is a perfect last question and answer. Lindsay, before we let the classes go, is there places where kids can learn more? I mean, we've already got someone building, Lego birds during the hangout, but if people want to go to a website, is there anywhere they can go to learn more?
You guys sure can. And what I'm going to do is actually type up our website. So if you guys wanted to visit our website, which is schlitzaudubon.org, which is SCHLITZAUDUBON.org, and I'm putting it in this little conversation bar here. You guys can actually go to the Meet Our Raptors tab on there, and it will show you all 17 of the birds that live here, and it'll tell you why they live with us, how old they are, and then we have a blog on our website too, so you can kind of go through that, and it can teach you about crows, it can teach you about owl adaptations. We have a lot of cool articles on our blog, so go and check that out.
Very cool. And of course, Lindsay, whenever you want to come back, we are welcome. Like, we'd love to have you back for classes. If you guys have other classes in your schools that want to bring in, the more Raptors, the better. What we do at the end of every hangout, Lindsay, is I'm going to demute everyone's microphone. So Miss Gordon's class, Mr. LeVaux's class, Miss Stanley.
Say goodbye.
Awesome, guys. It's the most excited people in the world. All right. For the classes, thanks so much for joining us. We loved having you. We look forward to having you back soon. Lindsay, you are welcome back anytime. That was amazing.